Hello, and welcome back to Of the People. I'm Robert Chernin.
And I'm Ericka Redic.
And I'm happy to say that Jay Shepard, the National Committeeman for the Republican National Committee from Vermont, has agreed to stay with us. Mr. Shepard, thanks for staying with us.
It's my pleasure. I thought you offered some very good questions earlier, so I wanted to see what was next with you guys.
Well, I want to.
Oh, just wait.
I want to continue on the path we're on, though. Can I do that?
Oh, yeah.
It's your show. I'm just here.
Okay. Actually, I think it's our show, but that's okay. In any event, we talked about Vivek Ramaswamy, I got that right, and his proposal to raise the voting age. It would require a constitutional amendment. And there's been all this discussion that we can solve all our problems by just changing the Constitution. And I know my co-host is going to have a fire lit under her when we open this, but I want your impression, because I'm always scared that once if it's obviously, look, you would have to call a constitutional convention. It's provided for in the Constitution, but there's a whole lot of gray area here. And I would just be afraid that if we open Pandora's box, no pun intended, that we might end up with something worse than what we have. And I know Ericka, have some thoughts on this, but I'd like to get Jay's take on the practicality. Is a constitutional convention really practical, and would it be part of the solution here for a country that is coming apart culturally, borders, language, on every level? Jay, what about a constitutional convention?
Well, I think it's a lot grayer area than most people will want to admit. It has beautiful sound bites. Let the people speak for themselves. I mean, your show is called Of the People, by the people, for the people. Those are great talking points. But the reality is that the Article 5 convention, we use the Roman numeral, the V, and I think because there can be various types of Article 5 conventions. And the murkiness, the fact that we've never done it since 1787, and it was a complete disaster and a complete change of events back in 1787, that if it's anything like that one, then we've got some real issues and some real problems. And there's some technical issues, and there are some questions that have to be answered. Really, if you read Article 5, it talks about Congress being very, very involved in this. And what is the role of Congress as far as who gets to be delegates, what the subject matter is. I think when we look back, the 1787 convention, the delegates went to that convention with the task of tweaking the Articles of Confederation. And what they ended up doing was trashing the Articles of Confederation and coming up with something all new. The opportunity for that to happen again is very open and very possible, that we send delegates who, whether we can control them or not, who gets to select the delegates is all open questions. And they could come back and completely scrap our Constitution and start with something new, something different, the way the only other Article 5 convention has ever been done, which was to get rid of Articles of Confederation and come up with a Constitution. It is dangerous. It is wrong for our country to do this. And there are so many unanswered questions that the logistics and how it would work is so up in the air, and who gets to control it. And I think you're going to find, as you dig deeper into it, that Congress has all the power, and Congress is mentioned in Article 5, and they have the full authority. They are the ones that will call the convention. A lot of people think we get 2/3 of the states, so we get 34, 36 states, or whatever the number is that we need, and it's automatic. Well, it's not automatic. Congress still has to call it. So I think we've got some real challenges. So, a lot of people have.
It is important to differentiate. There is a difference between a constitutional convention and an Article 5 convention. So I don't want to take away from your concerns. The question I do believe was about calling a constitutional convention, which is called by Congress or a congressional.
So Ericka,
calling.
what's the difference?
The difference is who gets the say and where the choices and decisions are made. So a constitutional convention is called by Congress, and then Congress suggests amendments to the Constitution, and then Congress votes on it, decides, and makes the decisions. An Article 5 convention is called by the states. Yes, maybe Congress has to say, okay, we're going to have it on Tuesday, but it is called by the states, and the delegates to the convention are sent by the states, not Congress. They are not selected by Congress. They are not Congress people. They are people from the states, chosen by the states. And 3/4 of the states have to agree to ratify whatever amendments are suggested. So what I think is 38 states all have to agree that whatever changes were decided at the convention, they have to decide on that, vote in their state, and then send that off for ratification. And again,
I need to challenge you, Ericka, before you go too much further. I know it's your show, but Article 5 leaves it to Congress to call a convention for proposing amendments once 2/3 of the state legislatures have applied for a convention. That is very clear language. It's very similar to the language of the Second Amendment that shall not be infringed. Mm-hmm. It is very clear that Article 5 leaves it to Congress to call a convention for proposing amendments. It also, because Congress is the one calling the convention, it leaves it very open as to Congress deciding who gets to decide who the delegates are. So the legal ramifications of all of this are very clear that Congress still controls all Article 5 conventions of the state. So we need to be very clear on what that language is to make sure, because it is not clear and it has never been done before. So to believe that it's a grassroots movement is really wonderful. That gets us to asking Congress to call for the convention. But after Congress calls for the convention, it then allows Congress to control the convention. So we need to be very, very clear on how that would work. And I don't think, for instance, controlling who the delegates are and who selects them is not pointed out. It doesn't talk about whether it is one vote per state. Congress also could fight and pass wordage that would allow them to be the one that chooses the delegates to the convention. So it's a murky thing, and it looks nice, and pretty, and the people are going to speak up and stand. Congress still has the power and the authority, as Article 5 clearly states.
Well, let me ask you this, Jay. First of all, I want to have a debate. I want to host a debate with you and Mark Meckler on this topic, and I think that we should try to plan something for one of our future episodes.
How long is that episode?
I know we might have to do that separate. But Jay, if you're unconvinced that a convention of the states will work, how do you recommend that we rein in this out of control federal government?
Can I answer that for Jay? Guns and gold. No,
Please.
Just kidding, Mr. Shepard. It's all yours. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
It starts with us being an informed electorate. Everybody loves term limits, and I heard someone talk about term limits, and the congressman ran on term limits. He said, 6 years, and in his 12th year, people said, "Why are you for term limits, but you're still here?" Well, I'm going to stay here because somebody needs to fight for them. So
I love that.
I love that. Term limits. We have term limits opportunities every 2 years. We are the people that are voting. 97% of the people hate Congress, but 97% of Congress gets reelected every year. Mm-hmm. So everyone likes their congressman, but they don't like anyone else's. So what we have to do is we have to become an informed electorate. And that's where we need to be establishing organizations and fight the Democrats tooth and nail over how we get our messaging out. We know that the government's been involved with a bunch of lies and how they're involved in Twitter and what Zuckerberg did with his Zuckerbucks and all of that to try to control elections. One of the saddest things, I think, is that we're all excited about Citizens United and how we thought it was going to help us. It really has changed the world. And I think there has to be some challenges as to how we go back and readdress the whole Citizens United thing and what outside money can do and its influence in our politics. There has to be changes, and either the American people have to step up and understand that they have to think about an overall best interest rather than their own personal interest. We see people all the time that government's gotten so big that are you going to vote for a continuation of government when you're still getting something from government? It makes it very, very difficult for people to do, and we have to do a much better job at cutting the size of government by electing people that care that government is controlling our lives.
As Ronald Reagan said, the larger the size of the federal government, the less individual freedoms we have.
That's right.
Absolutely. I still think guns and gold, by the way, are a good first start. There's a reason, as I like to say, that the Second Amendment is second. Everyone says the First Amendment is the first because it's most important. Well, the reason the Second Amendment is there is a backstop to the First Amendment. Because in case the First Amendment fails or people try to steamroll the First Amendment, that's why you have the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms.
Well, let's
Mr.
hope
Shepard,
we don't get there. Let's hope we don't get there.
I agree. Mr. Shepard, Jay, if I may, thank you so much. This has been a great show. We actually didn't get to some of the things we wanted to talk with you about, but what we did talk about was extremely informative, and I can't thank you enough for your time and hope that you will come back again and be a guest on the show, because debate or not about Convention of States, there's a lot more we'd like to pick your brain on. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm willing to come back when you need me.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Folks, you have been listening to Of the People. It's over. This segment means the show is over.
Makes me so sad.
I know.
So sad.
So sad.
How can
I'm
it be
Robert
over?
Chernin.
I'm Ericka Redic.
Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Take care.